Now notice Ezekiel 27, and they tell us that 2 out of 3 words in the book of Revelation are found in the Old Testament. And anyone that is fair-minded and accurate will tell you that Revelation 18 is based upon Ezekiel 27. When John is dealing with Revelation 18, he's drawing it from Ezekiel 27. It's easy to see. We'll show it to you. And in Ezekiel 27, verse 12, it says, Tarshish was thy merchant, by reason of the multitude of all kinds of riches, with silver, iron, tin, and lead, they traded in thy fairs. Verse 25, the ships of Tarshish did sing of thee in thy market, and thou was replenished, and made very glorious in the midst of the sea. Thy rowers have brought thee into great waters. The what? The east wind hath broken thee in the midst of the seas. How many witnesses does it take to establish something? That's Psalm 48 and Ezekiel 27 telling us that the ships of Tarshish are brought down by the east wind of Bible prophecy. And of course, what we're talking about is Isaiah 27 verse 8, which says, he stayeth his rough wind in the day of the east wind. The day of the east wind is the day, among other things, when the economic wealth of planet Earth is brought down. Okay, we haven't necessarily identified what the east wind is, but we know what it does. And we know it's a period of time, don't we? Because that's what it says, the day of the east wind. Okay? Continuing on in Ezekiel 27, it says, and in their wailing they shall take up a lamentation for thee, and lament over thee, saying, what city is like Tyrus? And Tyrus is Tyre. Notice that these merchantmen that are represented by the ships of Tarshish, they're wailing, just like they were in James, because the ships are brought down, the economic wealth is brought down. And they ask the question, what city is like Tyrus? And we've already identified in Isaiah 23 that Tyre, or Tyrus, is the papacy at the end of the world. What city is like Tyrus, like the destroyed in the midst of the sea? When thy wares went forth out of the seas, thou fillest many people, and thou did enrich the kings of the earth with the multitude of thy riches and of thy merchandise. In the time when thou shalt be broken in the seas, in the depth of the waters, thy merchandise and all thy company in the midst of thee shall fall. All the inhabitants of the isle shall be astonished at thee, and their kings shall be sore afraid. They shall be troubled in their countenance. The merchants among the people shall hiss at thee. Thou shalt be a terror, and never shall be any more. Now notice Revelation 18. Ezekiel 27 is where John obviously pulls the point of reference from to deal with Revelation 18. The part we're going to look at is in your notes. Verses 9 through 12 says, and the kings of the earth that have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall what? They'll weep and howl. James, Ezekiel, they'll bewail her and lament her, for when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for fear of her torment, saying, alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more. The merchants of these things, which were made rich by her, shall stand afar off, for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, saying, alas, alas, that great city was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, for in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. And every shipmaster and all the companies of ships and sailors, and as many as trade by sea, stood afar off, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto what? Tyrus. What city is like unto this great city? You see, John is pulling from Ezekiel 27. He's talking about when the economic wealth is swept away from planet Earth, and the merchants of the earth, they weep and wail in fulfillment of James chapter 5. Go ye too, rich man, weep and howl, from your wealth has become corrupted. All the prophets agree with one another. But the Bible teaches that what sweeps this economic wealth away is the east wind. But here in in Revelation 18, when these rich men are crying out and they're weeping and they're howling, what are they saying? What do they say 3 times? Woe, woe. Okay, because this word that's translated alas in Revelation 18 is the identical word that's translated as woe in Revelation 8:13. The bottom of your page it says, "And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Alas, 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 woe, woe, woe." Now, brothers and sisters, this is a really hard one for Seventh-day Adventist Laodiceans at the end of the world to follow what I'm going to say here. But on these charts, Sister White says that God was in the publishment of this chart here, and that she saw that there was a prophecy of this chart in the Bible, and if one of us needed this chart, we all need it just as much. That's the endorsement that she placed upon this chart. And on this chart, she says, God directed this chart. And so when you come to both these charts, which provide you with 2 testimonies, the first woe is identified as Islam, and the second woe is identified as Islam. And in this chart, the first woe is identified as Islam, and the second woe is identified as Islam. How hard is it to see that if the first woe is Islam and the second woe is Islam, what's the third woe? Islam. Upon the testimony of 2, a thing is established. So in Revelation 18, if you have eyes to see, and most of us in Adventism do not, or ears to hear, and most of us in Adventism do not, when the rich men are weeping and howling because the economic wealth has been taken away from planet Earth, and they're saying, woe, woe, and they say it 3 times, what are they saying? They're saying that the third woe wipes out the economic wealth of planet Earth. And if you want to understand the third woe, you have to understand that it's been illustrated by the first woe and the second woe. Woe, 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 woe. And if the first and second woe is Islam, the thing that wipes out the economic wealth at the end of the world is Islam. That's just one testimony, but we're not dealing with the woes right now. We're dealing with the east wind. Go to page 10 of your notes. The day of the east wind. It's a period of time. How do you know it's a period of time? We already made the case for that in terms of the day of the east wind. Brothers and sisters, all the prophets agree with one another, and Isaiah 27:8 says that he stayeth his rough wind in the day of the east wind. All the prophets agree with one another. So when John says that the 4 angels hold the rough wind, the winds of strife, during the sealing of the 144,000, Sister White says that the sealing time is a period of time. She says the sealing time is very short in one place. Okay? It's not a point in time, it's a period of time. So when the 4 winds in Revelation 7 are being restrained during the sealing of the 144,000, that's representing a period of time. So when Isaiah says, he stayeth his rough wind in the day of the east wind, the day of the east wind is a period of time. It's not a single day. It's a period of time. But in Isaiah 44:6-8, it says, Thus saith the Lord, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts, I am the first and I am the last, and beside me there is no God, and who as I shall call and shall declare it and set it in order for me, since I appointed the ancient people. So when Jesus is doing his work of illustrating the end from the beginning, because he's the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, as he's illustrating the end from the beginning, one of the tools that he puts in place is he appoints the ancient people to illustrate the people at the end of the world. Ancient Babylon represents modern Babylon at the end of the world. Ancient Israel, the 144,000 in Revelation 7 at the end of the world. Ishmael, Islam at the end of the world. Ancient Egypt, to illustrate Egypt at the end of the world. Right? That's the work of Christ in illustrating the end from the beginning. Are you with me?